Hi everybody! So, I've been having a good time, I've been doing well, coping well with the cold, and generally life is good here in the Inaka of Nara Prefecture. So I guess the number one thing that I should talk about is Universal Studios Japan. So one of the reasons I went is because in October they had a special biohazard event. There was a Halloween thing, it was a biohazard event. And what that meant was that around 5 o'clock, a bunch of the rides converted into special biohazard versions. And also around 5 o'clock, maybe a little later, they had a special show going on with costumes and actors as zombies, sort of going in a circuit around the same block and scaring people. So we went for that, and we got to do a bunch of the rides. In the morning, everything went really well. We used the single riders line, and we didn't have to wait very long for anything. It was super fun. But then, around lunchtime, we were just having a hard time. All the lines were like 2 hours or more, like 2.5 hours to ride anything. So we're like, well, we'll eat lunch, and then we'll see what we want to do. So we ate lunch, and of course, after lunch, we still couldn't get on any rides. None of the rides were operating single rider anymore. And all the waits were 2.5 hours. So we're like, well, we can either wait around outside until 5 o'clock, or we can get on a ride and then see about the biohazard stuff. So we're like, okay. So we got in line for Spider-Man, which, if you've been to Universal Studios in America, there's absolutely nothing different about Spider-Man in Japan. The line is the same, the ride is the same, except for that it's all in Japanese, so maybe you can't understand it. So we were in that line forever. Pretty much the first hour wasn't that bad, and after that, time seemed to go so slowly. And when we had about 20 minutes left, somebody's like, you know what, I'm gonna go see if the single riders line is open. And I'm like, no, don't do that, I don't want to know. But he went out, and sure enough, they had opened up the single riders, and the wait for the single riders was approximately 30 minutes. Meaning, we could have just been doing whatever we wanted during that time, waited until they opened up single riders, and have gotten to ride the ride at approximately the same time. And all in all, it's just Spider-Man. I wouldn't say it was worth it. And then, once we got outside of Spider-Man, we went to go see about getting in line for one of the special biohazard rides, except for that people had been getting in lines since the early afternoon. So by the time we went to try and get in line, they're like, no, sorry, because the number of people in line would already be waiting until the park closed. It was not possible to ride the rides. Also, when we got out of the Spider-Man ride, a bunch of us had to use the bathroom. And so the guys didn't have any problem, they just walked in the bathroom. All of the bathrooms in the park for women had a line of at least 100 people. Now, I don't know how fast some people go to the bathroom, but with my calculations, that means you're going to be waiting in line for at least 20 minutes to use the restroom. Now, sometimes I don't have 20 minutes. I certainly don't have half an hour to an hour, which, I mean, could very possibly be the amount of time I would have had to wait. So we ran around like chickens with their head cut off, me and about 4 other girls, trying to find a bathroom. And we're like, okay, near the front there are 3 bathrooms, there's got to be one without a line. And we realized one of them, when we were up there, was actually right outside the park. So we're like, okay, that one's probably a lot better. So as we're running to go out the front, we pass some of the guys, and we're like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, oh, we just want to use the bathroom. Tell them that you have to go to the lockers, because there are some lockers right outside the gate. So we're like, okay, we'll do that. And the woman's like, yeah, no big deal, sort of older woman. No big deal, go out and come back in. So we went out there, and obviously we didn't go to our lockers. We rushed into the handicap stall, which all the Japanese people were too polite to use. Instead, they waited in line forever. And so then we went back inside, and as we were coming back inside, there was this woman arguing with the worker because she wanted to leave and use the bathroom. And so we're coming back in and we're like, oh yes, lockers. And I was like, oh yeah, come on in. And the woman who wanted to leave just became even more upset. She's like, what the heck, you just let them in? Oh, it was so crazy. So it was a little bit of luck, of the right information, tactful deception, and gaijin power. Because only a foreigner would be so stupid as to use the locker outside and then need their stuff before they need to go. But it's totally believable that we would do that. That 4 of us would do that. So it worked out fine. Felt a little bad for that lady, and I was really glad that wasn't us, because it would have been bad news. Bad news bear. And so that was pretty much USJ. The whole zombie thing was really fun, except for there were about 10 or 12 actors dressed up as zombies. So I got to see all of them. We just stood in one part waiting for them to go around, because they basically just went around a block. And it was the least frightening zombie thing ever, because the Japanese people were just following the zombies around. There were these stupid girls just wearing 4-inch heels who would run up to the zombie, and when the zombie jumped at them, they'd be like, ah! And they'd jump back and step on your feet and push you, and I'm just like, I'm gonna start throwing elbows. It's gonna happen. But I contained myself. And then afterwards, we went to the Hard Rock Cafe, which is pretty much just across the street from Universal Studios Japan, and we got our Western food on. It was funny because I think I was the only American in the restaurant, that is, of our group, and I don't think there was another American there at all. But interestingly, there was a wedding party, a reception going on in the Hard Rock Cafe, just in the back room, so we could see through the doorway and we could see the wedding reception. And at one point, they actually came out to the front near the bar where we were sitting, and the staff all started playing music and leading us in dances. We were doing the YMCA with this Japanese couple, and it was really, really, really great. And of course, we're just a bunch of gaijin. We're like, yeah, song and dance, and we don't mind being silly, because of course we're also teachers, so we're used to being silly with our kids. So it was a lot of fun. I think they really enjoyed having us there. And when we were leaving the restaurant, they were downstairs handing out thank you notes to their guests, and we're like, hey, can we take a picture with you? So I have a picture with a random Japanese couple, and the woman was in her very pretty wedding dress, and it was a really fun experience. This week, as far as work goes, I had an observed class, which is another Japanese teacher of English came to sit in and watch one of my classes and then give feedback. And so I knew that was happening, and that was on Wednesday. So I took the regular coffee that we have, regular hot coffee we had, and I took the coffee mix, which turns hot water into coffee. And I put coffee in my coffee because I had one break in the morning, and of course my last class of the day is the observed class, so I needed to maintain that energy for the next 5 hours pretty much. And it worked out pretty well. My strategy was to just be super energetic and pretend like nothing was wrong and just make it go as smoothly as possible, as was in my control, no matter what I actually thought of the lesson plan. That way, at least, whatever feedback we got wouldn't be on me being frustrated with the lesson planning, it would be on the lesson plan itself. So I was pretty happy with that, and it got some high praise. The woman said that she thought I was a very good teacher, and she was very impressed by the way that as soon as the students needed me, I was there and I helped them, which is something that means a lot to me. And it was good timing, because on Thursday and Friday we had a skills development conference, all of the Nara Jets, and we all went with our JTEs. So there were some lectures and a lot of workshops. So it really gave me a good opportunity to be there with my JTE, talking about how to have a better and more interactive classroom. So I don't know how much my classes are actually going to be able to change, but if I can get him to just trust me a little bit, give me just a little bit of wiggle room, in what we normally do in class, then I think I can make my kids' normal classes so much better. My middle schoolers, that is. They just they leave something to be desired as they are right now. And so I'm hoping that it'll work out. I told him on Friday, Monday, just don't worry about it, just do a normal lesson plan. And Monday after school, we're going to talk about the things that we learned that we want to implement. So God only knows when I'm going to actually get home on Monday, because I'm going to stay as long as it takes. And it's not easy communicating with him, just because I think I've mentioned before, he has selective listening. He'll latch onto part of what you're saying and decide what you mean. And it's very difficult once he's done that to make him understand that you mean something different. So I'm glad we're going to have this talk, but at the same time, it's a lot of work. The other thing I know I mentioned was I had some tooth pain. But I've been putting it off because even though I got a recommendation for a dentist that speaks English, I knew that the receptionist would not. So making the reservation had to be in all Japanese. So it was a little nerve-wracking. But this morning I finally did it, and it went fine. And I have an appointment for next week on Saturday morning, which is great because I wanted to go in the city to do karaoke at night anyway. So I'll just make a day of it. But doing that, and some of the interactions I had at USJ, for example, figuring out how to get this one guy a bacon cheeseburger, even though he didn't want barbecue sauce. Just little things, making things happen. I feel like I'm really getting a lot better at Japanese. For example, after the conference, we went out bowling and then we went to a little bar. And there was this Japanese guy at the counter who was talking, as you do, old Japanese guy. And I was able to have a nice little conversation. I was able to make small talk with a random Japanese guy. I'm really getting a lot better. I'm really feeling a lot more comfortable here. But sometimes I think it's actually better now that I'm more comfortable here. I get more of the feeling of like, wow, I'm really in Japan. This is really amazing. I'm just driving around like it's nothing, but I'm in Japan. Something that I've wanted to do for so long. So it's been a really great experience. So next weekend is my birthday, but this week there's not a whole lot going on, except I guess trying to see what I can do about making my English classes a little more fun for my middle schoolers. I am going to try and incorporate at least some rewards, which I've been hesitant. I just didn't know how to do. So I'm going to incorporate more rewards for my kids to try and get them a little more active. So that's all for now. And I guess I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.